Good morning. I should say, first of all, I do have a bit of a sore throat, so if you see me suddenly accelerating, it's so that I can get to the end before I completely lose my voice. First of all, I'd like to ask you a question. Can I have a show of hands for those of you who were here at last year's HMEP conference? It was April. Okay, thank you. Quite a few of you. And you'll remember that Norman Baker, the local transport minister, was here then to formally launch the Highways Maintenance Efficiency Programme in April 2011. And the reason we chose this occasion, it was convenient timing-wise, yes, but it was to, I think, symbolize the fact that with this programme, we wanted to make sure that there was a collaboration and partnership working between the public and private sectors. So, that was quite symbolic for why Norman Baker launched it here, and I'm very pleased to be able to give you an update on what we have been doing since then and where next. And when I say we in this context, it's not what DFT has been doing. DFT is clearly involved in this, but it's many of you here from local authorities and the industry who have been critical to shaping this programme, and will continue to be so. Now, one of my broader roles in DFT is to look after local transport funding and other policies. And before I get straight into HMEP, I thought it's worth putting that table up there. Some of you will be familiar with this, but others not. The DFT provides about £800 million a year currently to local authorities in England for highways maintenance. And I find myself, when talking to a lot of people out there, they think that the amount DFT gives, that £800 million, is the amount that gets spent on local highways maintenance in England. Well, actually, it's not. That table shows, for 2010-11, the total amount of spending that local authorities reported to Communities Local Government for highways maintenance. That includes roads, bridges, street lighting, winter maintenance, includes capital and revenue. So I think that illustrates that the DFT funding is only part of it. Clearly, authorities use the ring-fence money from Communities Local Government, but also authorities put in a lot of resources from their own funds. And that's because, as Steve Gooding said earlier, the local highways network is kind of vital for supporting the economy, and it matters to the general public out there. So that's the context in which we launched the Highway Maintenance Efficiency Programme, HMEP. It is to help the sector to get the most out of that substantial investment that goes in, year out, and be more efficient. It is, as I said, by the sector, for the sector. Most of what I tend to do in my other policy areas in DFT is, we will come up with a policy or programme, we may consult you, and then we make the decisions. But this is different. This is very much co-designed, co-developed, co-implemented with key people, some of them in this room from local authorities and the industry, including David himself, who's been kind of really helpful in shaping this forward. So that together we develop products, tools, resources that will actually make a real difference on the ground to improving service delivery and saving costs. I'll come on to the HME offer, but just to kind of illustrate that point about by the sector, for the sector, this slide shows the various organisations that were involved in one of the work streams, which was the potholes review. And you'll see it includes not only the representatives of the local highway sector, HTMA, but other parts of industry and stakeholders, including road user groups, utility sector. So that was a good example where different parts of the kind of wider stakeholder community were involved and signed up to the recommendations, which are now being taken forward. So, what is the offer from HMEP to the sector? We have categorized this into kind of 5 key elements. The first one there, which we now call a strategic review, it is based on a local government association experience of developing what they called a corporate review of local government services. And we've adapted it to suit the local highway sector. So this will involve a peer-led review of an authority's performance to identify key issues, priorities and opportunities for improving service delivery and delivering efficiencies. We are about to road test this with a number of authorities, 6 in all in different parts of the country, in 2 phases, before we think about kind of rolling out more widely across the country so that we do kind of capture the learning and improve the offer. Clearly, signposting is a key element of HMEP, pointing to expertise and initiatives that are already happening across the sector now. And we have a range of what we call advocates. These are people from the local government sector and industry who are involved with HMEP and can assist and get the message out there to those who may be not aware of some of these initiatives. We already have a website hosted currently by the DFT about the HMEP, where you will be able to find out more about some of the products, tools and resources I'm kind of highlighting today. But we are also in the process of developing what we call a knowledge hub. And this is a more interactive forum for dialogue and accessing good practice and engaging. Item 4, the actual toolkits, guidance and resources, and item 5, good practice examples, are ones which I'd like to kind of go into a bit more detail now. So, for the tools and resources, we have broadly grouped these into 4 key themes: collaboration and change, asset management, and then procurement, contracting and standardization, and finally benchmarking and performance. Now, within each of these themes, there are a range of specific products and tools to take those forward. And today, I'm just going to pick on 5, but that is not exhaustive. If you go to our website, if you talk to some of our advocates, you will find a range of other products and tools being developed. So the first one, Collaborative Highways Alliance Toolkit. Now this is about providing guidance and assistance for local highway authorities to collaborate between themselves, largely, to deliver savings by reducing duplication, taking advantage of economies of scale, sharing expertise, and importantly, without losing sovereignty, which I think is politically very important at the local level. And we draw on actual case studies where people have already done that or are doing this already to demonstrate the tangible savings that can be achieved. Just to name a few, I mean, London, Midlands, the South East authorities, various elements of collaboration are already happening. Clearly, those areas are trying to do more, but we can point to examples where actual collaboration has delivered benefits. And at the moment, we are particularly targeting this product tool at a number of potential new alliances across the country. One in particular, for example, is in the southwest, where there is quite a bit of interest in potentially taking this forward. I think we also recognize that collaboration is not just between local highway authorities. It can also be between local highway authorities and their highways agency, where, you know, through some of their kind of framework agreements, these, you know, many of these are now available to local highway authorities. But importantly, it's not even just about collaboration within the public sector. That's why the HTMA, as part of the HMEP program, are now leading on a complementary project on client service provider collaboration, which is, I think, going to be really useful in getting that kind of industry view alongside the public sector view on you know, future service delivery. And also complementing that is a project led by TfL but involving others called Creating a Culture of Delivery, because we also recognize it's not just about, you know, what the contract says, what the paperwork says. It's about behaviors and engagement as well. So that's the first example. Number two is the potholes review, which I talked about earlier, and the local transport minister, Norman Baker, when he was here in April 2011, launching HMEP, particularly was interested in doing a review on causes of potholes and how to manage them in an efficient way. And the report was published with you know, strong input from a wide range of stakeholders, as I showed earlier. And there were three main themes coming out of this. Firstly, prevention is better than cure. Just saves money in the longer term. Doing it right first time so that you don't continuously, you know, have to pay more bills. And engagement with the public is key to managing you know, public expectations. And under each of these themes, there are a series of recommendations which are being taken forward. There's a group that periodically meets to make sure that this isn't a report that's, you know, sits on the shelf, that actually action is being continuously taken and followed up to implement the recommendations, which, you know, many of you in the sector were keen to see happen. And the other thing I would say about this report is it is not a kind of a theoretical kind of guidance book. It has many, many really good examples where the sector, authorities, private sector have done things differently to improve services and reduce costs. Third example is the supply chain review. This is aimed at authorities with more than 2 years to run on existing contracts. You know, it is possible to make savings if you're in that position through supply chain re-engineering without having to you know, go out to re-procurement. And this is an interesting example where we've looked at what happens in other sectors other than highways. So in this case, this is taking a concept which originated in the housing sector, where, you know, in some cases significant savings, 10% says here, were achieved, and trying to apply those principles to the highway sector. And I think this is where, particularly those of you in you know, HTMA and wider industry, given that you know, your firms not only operate in the highway sector, you operate across a range of other sectors. If there is learning that we can bring to the highways maintenance sector, then, you know, I think that we should grab those opportunities. Currently, this tool is being piloted with the South East Southern authorities and the Greater Manchester authorities before we move more widely on that front. Now, for those authorities who do have less than 2 years to go on existing contracts and maybe thinking about their next procurement, we have a web-based tool being developed called Procurement Route Choices with a lot of input from the CIHT. And this provides guidance to authorities on the range of procurement options available to them, taking into account, importantly, their appetite for risk and the advantage and disadvantage of the options. And you can see from that diagram, at one end of the spectrum, we have PFI, the other, complete in-house delivery, but quite a big range in between that. Final product, benchmarking performance. Now, you probably can't see the detail of this, but the first scatter diagram is a snapshot from the current DFT website, where for a while now in DFT, as part of the kind of government's transparency agenda, we've published the amount of expenditure on local roads by each local authority in England and plotted that against road condition over a number of years. And the second snapshot at the bottom is from the National Highways and Transportation Survey, which looks at public satisfaction. And I think at the moment, over 70 authorities are signed up to that survey annually. And what we're trying to do through HMEP is to kind of look at the various aspects of benchmarking and bring them together into a more holistic approach that combines 3 dimensions, mainly cost, quality, and customer satisfaction. And there's a specific project looking to kind of take that forward. We're also, as part of this work, conscious that we are not alone in local highways sector looking at benchmarking and transparency. Wider local government initiatives are also looking at this. So wherever possible, we are kind of talking to the LGA, who, through their Inform project, are trying to create a kind of one-stop shop for citizens to be able to access information on local government services. And we hope that that will be a useful kind of outlet for the work coming out of HMEP. So that was an overview of some products, not all of them, as I said. Whilst developing new products, tools, where there is a need in the market is important, we mustn't forget that right now, there are parts of the sector who are doing really innovative things, delivering savings, efficiencies, really good case studies. It can be challenging for a sector that has over 150 individual authorities all responsible for their own network to know what is happening in another part of the country. You could have an authority who is thinking about the challenges with reduced budgets, in their own patch, but maybe someone else somewhere else has already thought of something that could help that authority. And one of the key things we want to achieve through HMEP is to get that dissemination out there. Clearly, every example may not apply wholesale to other areas, but these can be adapted. And what we have here is just 3 examples of good practice we've identified. So there's one on making savings through lean interventions in the West Midlands Highway Alliance. We have collaboration and contracts with Cheshire West and Chester and Shropshire. And I think Steve Kent is talking later this afternoon so he may pick up on this. And the other example we have is transforming London highways management, where through developing a common highway maintenance contract and spec, substantial savings look to be possible on that front. So that was an overview of where we are. What are the priorities for the future? Well, I think there are kind of four main things. Firstly, clearly, we have a pipeline of tools, resources in development, and we need to make sure that we complete those, make sure they're fit for purpose and widely available. But having products, guidance, tools is not enough if people aren't actually aware they exist and are using them. So raising awareness, more importantly, engagement, and even better participation, so that people are actually making use of these tools, resources, the expertise, the good practice, so that savings are actually delivered on the ground is what this is all about. So we need to continue to kind of move on that front. And I mentioned sharing of existing good practice. We just need to do more of that, and many of you out here will know of them and would like to hear from you. Final point I have here is thinking about the HMEP program itself and how we run this. I mean, to date, it has been, despite my comments about sector engagement, quite DFT top heavy, and in line with the principles of localism, decentralization. Over time, we are looking at, with the sector, an even greater sector ownership. That's not to say DFT won't be involved. Yeah, this is important, we will be, but an even greater sector ownership. And a number of options are currently being looked at with the sector about how that might be achieved. So, we'd like you to get involved if you aren't already. The website's there. It has the names of various advocates in both the public and private sectors, and I can see many of them are in this room. And we want you to contribute, even better, participate, and that can be in many forms. I said earlier, we are piloting some of our tools. If you want to be a early enabler, a pilot for road testing some of our tools before we launch them, then that's one way. If you're a subject matter expert in any of the areas I talked about and are willing to kind of share that more widely across the sector, and in return I'm sure others will be sharing with you. Or indeed, if you operate in a part of the country where maybe HMEP is not well known about, and maybe we haven't got that engagement with that part of the country, then you can help to champion this agenda for the benefit of authorities in that area. So my last message is really do get involved. Thank you.